This is an update to a video I posted on my channel on September 2nd. You're looking at a little screenshot of it here. The original title of the video was Astro explains how its headsets and MixAmps will work for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. I wanted to give an update to this video because there's been some new information that has come out, and I was thinking about trying to append the original video. It just didn't make sense. So if you've stumbled across that original video and you saw the card, you're here. If you Googled it, welcome. If you want to look at the old video, that information is still mostly valid. You can look at that as well. I'll post a link to that in the description below. But what I wanted to talk about today was the next generation of consoles. We are a mere, as the time of this recording, a mere 22 days away from getting our hands on the PlayStation 5. I know the Xbox Series X is only 19 days away, the S as well, 19 days away. Unfortunately, as I had anticipated, we are not going to see the next level of really cool high-end peripherals. Particularly, I'm speaking to headphones or MixAmps or DACs, the digital analog converters. You're not going to see those, not for a while. So it's on us as gamers to find a way to make our existing tech work as best as possible moving into the next generation, because Astro, and this is video specifically designed towards Astro, but it is somewhat applicable to SteelSeries or to Turtle Beach or Sennheiser, any headset that you own. They're not cheap. And it's not like you could just run out and buy a brand new thing. And even if you wanted to, unfortunately, they haven't released much of anything. Astro did release the A20 Gen 2s a couple days ago, and they're receiving really poor reviews. They definitely seem more like a budget pair of headphones, and that's unfortunate. So if you're like me, you have the Astro A40s TRs with the Mixamp. That's the thing I'm holding as a static shot for you there. And you'll notice that it has an optical port. Now, the big problem is that the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series S or X, I may say those names interchangeably in this video, but they're the same thing in terms of the output of the audio. They do not have an optical port. So this machine was designed to accept an optical input and a USB power source / connection to the box, regardless of, again, PlayStation or Xbox. When you take away the optical connection, you severely gimp this box. So what I originally had reported on when this all began was this blog post, which came out back in on 9/1/2020, which talks about how Astro will be next-gen compatible. At the time, they didn't really understand the limitations of the PlayStation 5. So if you are an Xbox fan, good news for you, you don't have to do much of anything. On the PlayStation side, and that's what I'm mostly interested in, unfortunately, we're going to have to do a little bit more. And I'm going to walk through all that with you guys here. But this blog, which I will also post a link in the description below, so feel free to check that out. Don't take my word for it. Astro has laid out every headset that they have, and they talk about the steps and the limitations potentially of what your headset may or may not do going into the next generation. The one I want to focus on is right here. This is the Astro MixAmp Pro TR, or the regular MixAmp. There's a lot of MixAmps, okay? They've been making these things for a while. But if you have the box that plugs in, it looks something like this. We have the knobs on it. That's what I'm talking about here, okay? If you have an Xbox, or you're planning on purchasing an Xbox Series S or X, all you have to do is upgrade the firmware. You're going to plug this into your console via USB, and you're done. The optical port will not be utilized. It will not make an impact, and you will be able to use the mixer as it works now. You're going to turn the knob to do game volume or whatever. This is the setup, I should mention, just the single USB connection that I use on my gaming PC, and it works just fine. No issues. I do not have an optical out on my motherboard. I plug one USB connection from the Mixamp to my PC. I plug it in, and it works. The volume works, the mixer works, the equalizer settings work, everything's fine, no issues. So if you are an Xbox person, breathe a sigh of relief, you're okay. PlayStation, unfortunately, a little different story. And what they had said with PlayStation at the time was, we don't yet understand how to get the mixing part of the box to work. Now, the volume part, in terms of the game audio, in terms of the equalizer, that will still work via USB only with a firmware update. What will not work without an optical connection is the mixing portion. The mixing portion is that knob here. I just pulled up this Mixamp, but as I mentioned, this is applicable to any generation of Mixamp. I'm looking at the Pro TR here. It doesn't matter. You have a volume knob to obviously raise and lower the game volume. You also have a secondary knob to change the mixing volume. You're mixing the game audio and your chat audio together. So if you want to hear people better, you want to hear the game better, you turn that knob. If you follow this guide and you upgrade your Mixamp via firmware update, the optical only, the USB, I'll be very clear, USB only connection, you will not be able to use the mixer portion. So you will turn the knob left and right and nothing will happen. You will have to instead toggle the game audio, hopefully through the PlayStation user interface, which may or may not exist. We don't know. So that is not a great solution, unfortunately, because you paid a lot for this functionality and now it's gone. You will still have your equalizer settings, but if you're like me and you're playing with different friends and sometimes their microphones are better or worse, and you want to adjust that, you're not going to be able to on PlayStation with USB only. So what Astro has revealed finally, and it actually has gone on sale as of yesterday, October 20th, 2020, they are now selling this little box here. This is the Astro HDMI Adapter. Now, this is not unique to Astro. You can pick up this adapter pretty much anywhere. It has been around for a long time. I think why people tend to lean towards this is because it is Astro approved, so you know that it's going to work. But this is where the limitations start to occur. So let me be very clear. You have your PlayStation 5, you have your Astro Mixamp. You plug it in only via USB. The optical connection is not connected. You will lose the mixer piece. If you buy this box, it has a splitter. So the HDMI goes in and it goes between the PlayStation and your television. This will then have a splitter where the HDMI then proceeds into your television, business as usual, but it will also have an optical output. The optical output will plug back into your Mixamp, and then you will get mixing functionality again. So you will have to buy this box. It will go between the console and your television, and it will allow your Mixamp to work as normal. There is a caveat with this. This does not support HDMI 2.1, which many of you guys probably do not have on your television. I'm not belittling you. This is a very new technology. And among other things, HDMI 2.1 will allow you to get to the coveted 120 frames per second, assuming your TV is a 120 hertz display. Most TVs are not, so this will not impact you in the immediate future. But a lot of people see that and go, well, my TV has HDMI 2.1. I demand to have it. This box will break that and you will not get that connection. That's where I said the limitations occur with this particular box. So if you have an old, this is where we start to split off in a lot of different paths. If you have an older TV that does not support HDMI 2.1 and you have an Astro and you're getting a PlayStation 5, you may want to consider picking this up. This will allow your Mixamp to work as it works right now on your PlayStation 4 or your PlayStation 4 Pro. There is another alternative though. Most of your TVs probably have an optical out already. I know mine does. Most TVs do. It is a very standard interface, which is why it is so shocking to me that Sony decided to pull the plug on the optical output for the PlayStation 5. But they did. If you have an optical out on your television, you can instead plug your Mixamp into your USB port on your PlayStation 5 and then run that optical cable, which was right now plugging into the back of your PlayStation 4 or your PlayStation 4 Pro, into your television. And that will work. You will still have the mixing capabilities. Everything will work as normal. No further firmware updates will be required. The caveat with that solution is if you want to toggle on your sound between your headphones and, let's say, a surround sound system or the speakers built into your television, you're going to have some difficulty. Primarily because a lot of sound systems use optical as their connection. So either you're going to have to always leave your TV as an optical output and constantly unplug the connection from the this little Astro HDMI adapter piece. I'm sorry, not the Astro. The back of your TV, you'd have to unplug the optical cable there, which connects to your Mixamp, and then plug in your sound system. Or maybe your TV allows you to have multiple outputs where you have to go into a menu and say, okay, I want the sound to be transmitted via optical. I want the sound to be transmitted by TV speakers, whatever. In my situation, this is not a viable solution. For me, the way my current setup is, I have an older Bose system that uses an optical connection, and I don't have two optical connections on the back of my television. So unfortunately, this type of solution will not work. Okay, I'm gonna get big here, so we get enough of that. This solution for me will not work. However, if you don't care about that and you're only ever going to use headphones on your television, then that would work. So that's why I say there's a lot of limitations. So I want to recap one more time to be very crystal clear here. If you have an Xbox, you are fine. If you have a PlayStation, things are going to get a little trickier, and you're going to have to either buy this box here for $40, but I think Astro's giving you, I want to say like a $10 or $15 discount to buy this box. That will allow everything to work as normal, with the exception of losing HDMI 2.1, which you may or may not have. Or if your TV has an optical output, you don't need to buy anything else. You will just plug your Mixamp directly into the optical output of your TV. Make sure your TV is output to that sound, but understand if you want to change where the sound goes via some sort of surround sound system or something else, and you don't always want to use your headphones, that may not be a viable solution for you either. And unfortunately, those are the only options. I have tried the optical port directly to my Mixamp, and it works just fine. There's no latency, there's no issues. I do not have the HDMI adapter, but these are the hard choices you're going to have to make as a PlayStation 5 adopter of somebody who has a Mixamp. You're going to have to decide what solution works best for you. There may be other creative solutions where you get some crazy splitter or some elaborate setup or some old sound box that has multiple inputs and outputs. But the reality is, and you know as well as I do, the more breaks and the more connections you have between your PlayStation and you, the worse off you're going to be, the more issues there are going to be. This does not include, obviously, if PlayStation does come out with virtual reality, for example, and there is another box, this would be yet another connection between your PlayStation 5 and your television. This is more HDMI connections to manage. This is more pass-through. This is more chances for the signal to get diminished over time. In a perfect solution, the PlayStation goes directly to your television via a really nice HDMI cable to give you the best possible picture. Obviously, when you start introducing boxes like this and more layers of pass-through, you start to realize that the signal will degrade slightly and you're not getting the best picture. Keep that in mind. I hope this makes it crystal clear for you guys. This was new information. This box was something new that we did not know before. We now have it. It's available to buy. You will be able to get it before launch if that's a solution you want to take. But I cannot stress enough that every of these solutions has some sort of limitation. You're going to have to choose which limitation works best for your own unique situation. I hope you guys found this video informative. I will post links to everything I explained in the description box below. I'll post links to my old video to my new one, so you can see everything of my thoughts on this subject. And I hope it helps. I hope you guys find the solution that works for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to write them in the comments. I will do my best to address them as I have been doing on the other video, but this is very complex stuff. And the reality is, I don't know how well Astro's been managing that message. This comes from hours of scouring on their subreddit and understanding how AV equipment works. This is definitely a little more complex than we had originally thought, particularly for the PlayStation guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.